Hey guys, how's it going? It's Bill. So, it's been about 10 years since Modern Warfare 3 has released. Like, it's been a little bit over 10 years, but considering how long it takes for DLCs and stuff to roll out, it's really been about 10 years since the prime of Modern Warfare 3. And I feel like now is a perfectly good time to assess it for how good the game actually was, pound for pound, like, all hype aside. Because when the game first came out, Call of Duty was in the middle of a crazy hot streak. You know, you had World at War, the original Modern Warfare 2, and Black Ops. So when this game came out, it was supposed to be expected to be in the same echelon of like greatness and creativity and this and that as those four. And by that like regard, I guess it's a really fair assessment to sit there and say Modern Warfare 3 was a disappointment because it wasn't anything new or experimental like the other four had been. It wasn't anything like bold, nothing new had happened. I mean, all they did was like destroy the Eiffel Tower in the campaign, and for the most part it just really didn't seem like there was that much about the game that was trying to try anything different or unique like the previous four installations. So enough about that. I want to try to use the power of hindsight to sit there and weigh Modern Warfare 3 against the other Call of Duties and sit there and try to decide how bad it actually was or how good it was or if we were too critical on it because of the hype. So starting off with the campaign, I mean, the campaign was pretty underwhelming. Modern Warfare 2's campaign had lots of twists and turns and established new characters, established a lot of different motives. I don't want to get into the story or whatever because I want people to be able to replay it or whatever. But to summarize, the first two Modern Warfares were basically making you feel like you were some kind of special ops soldier. Like the whole environment and like the missions and so on that you go on make you feel like you're like the top line special ops soldier. But Modern Warfare 3 makes you feel like you're some kind of action movie protagonist or some shit. Like it's just kind of contrived almost. I mean, I enjoyed it kind of, but not really as much as the other campaigns. It really just seemed to be kind of generic looking back on it, even though it actually was only the second Call of Duty campaign that I had played through full length. So I feel like that should say something because it was one of my first introductions and it still didn't seem to stick with me that hard. Now onto the special ops, because this was a pivotal part of the last 3 or 4 installations of Call of Duty, because the last 3 or 4 installations of Call of Duty all had some kind of like extra mode that was not core multiplayer, not campaign, and was just intended as some kind of co-op experience for multiple players, you know, usually 2 to 4. And in this particular installation, the special ops mode would quite literally be called special ops just because it had survival and missions, unlike the first 2 Modern Warfare games, which just had missions. Now, I'm not here to give them too much credit, so to be completely fair, the missions was just basically flipped maps that you had already completed on the campaign, but it just had a different objective or two. It was just basically another pseudo campaign. But what this special ops mode had that the other ones did not was a new leveling system. At least a leveling system that really mattered or affected the game. The reason why I say this is because whenever you complete a mission in Special Ops or complete a survival round or so on and so forth, you get XP towards a level up. And when you level up, you unlock more stuff that you can use in survival, which basically made it some kind of progressive experience that was separate from multiplayer. The reason why I say this is because this laid down the framework for how Black Ops 3 would use their whole leveling system and the liquid divinium and so on and so forth, but at least it gave them a decent framework to work with. But this is actually where it started and there was no monetization at least. And yeah, I won't go into too much detail, but I already mentioned it offhand a couple times already. It's just a survival mode. I already made a whole video about it. I highly recommend it. It's a really fun game mode. I personally think it probably is the brightest spot on this entire game, and I highly recommend that anybody plays it if you haven't already. It was a unique spin on special ops by just letting you go against waves of regular enemies like the computer and just giving you a holdout spot. You could have sentry guns, so on and so forth, upgrade weapons and this and that, and you could just hold out with up to 2 people. Unfortunately, they didn't even let you do full 4 players. And personally, I found this to be the saving grace of the entire game in terms of creativity or like, you know, shaking it up, because like I mentioned, the previous 4 Call of Duties were known for trying to make differences in the formula or at least some variety in the game. And if you had to point out the most unique or adventurous part of Modern Warfare 3, I'd have to say far and wide that it was the survival system, or at least the chaos mode that would be later introduced. And finally, as I conclude this, we want to look over to the multiplayer. Now personally, I actually found a lot of enjoyment in Modern Warfare 3's multiplayer. Modern Warfare 2 was known for the whole mentality that if everything is broken, nothing is broken. But in Modern Warfare 3, I genuinely do feel like almost all of the weapons are viable. Like you could probably run around with a pistol and get a decent game out of it if you just know how to use your pistol. I mean, I understand that like the ACR and the MP7 are definitely the cornerstones of this game, and if you're not using those two guns, you're probably going to be at least at a slight disadvantage, but I didn't really find myself at too much of a disadvantage playing with the M4A1 and SCAR, as you can see. I mean, I'm not that good, but the parity between the guns is definitely pretty good, I would say for myself. But of course, gun parity isn't what makes multiplayer good. A lot of people didn't like Modern Warfare 3 just because it felt like a retextured Modern Warfare 2, and I kind of understand, but at the same time I don't, because it's just Modern Warfare 2 Part 2, and I don't see much of an issue with that if Modern Warfare 2 was a fun game. Like, did people get fatigued of the game or not? Like, I don't really understand, because like I could go back and still play Modern Warfare 2 and 3 no problem. So I want to let you guys, chime in or let me know or whatever. What is your favorite thing about Modern Warfare 3? Like, did you have anything you actually enjoyed about it? Did you not like the game at all? What about the game made it repetitive? Like, let me know what you thought about the game. This has been Bill, and I appreciate you all for tuning in. Thank you.